Levels of illiteracy vary and all affect children, college students, and adults. Most illiterate adults are denoted to low-paying jobs, and some can result to a lifestyle of crime or drugs. In order to function in the increasingly complex society of today, adults must be able to read at a 12th grade level minimally. According to the National Association for Adult Literacy, there are 3 basic skills students need in order to thrive: the ability to do critical thinking and problem solving, the ability to communicate effectively, and the ability to collaborate. There are 4 different achievement levels: below basic, basic, intermediate, and proficient. 13% of adults were at or above proficient, indicating they possess the skills necessary to perform complex and challenging literacy activities. 22% of the adults are below basic, indicating they possess no more than the most simple and concrete literacy skills. The rest of the 65% of adults fall somewhere in between. In Philadelphia, there are an estimated 400,000 adults with less than a 5th grade education. The high school dropout rate is 38%. More than 40,000 students are enrolled in 74 charter schools around the city. Children who have not developed some sort of basic literacy skills by the time they enter school are 3 times more likely to drop out in later years. The probability that a child will remain a poor reader at the end of 4th grade if he or she was a poor reader at the end of 1st grade is 88%. M.J. Adams, published professor, estimated that the typical middle-class child enters 1st grade with 1,000 to 1,700 hours of one-on-one picture book reading, whereas a child from a low-income family averages just 25 hours. According to the National Center for Children in Poverty, children of low-income families began school far below their more advantaged peers. By the time middle-class children are in 3rd grade, they know about 12,000 words. 3rd grade children from low-income families know about 4,000 words, 1/3 as many words as their peers. Significant correlations were proven to exist between the home literacy environment and preschool children's language abilities. Because there is a huge importance of having a social partner in learning, children need an environment where someone might show them the letters, teach them the letter sounds, or play with letter magnets on the fridge. Parents become a huge importance in prompting their child's education. Sharing books and reading aloud to children provides an extremely rich source of information and opportunity for children to learn and develop language and vocabulary skills. 5% of the daily speech for 3-year-olds was found to occur in the context of story time. Judy Deloche, published developmental psychologist, reported that aspects of the home literacy environment, such as number of books in the home, library visits, and parents' own print exposure, was all related to children's vocabulary skills. Out-of-school reading habits of students have shown that even 15 minutes a day of independent reading can expose students to more than 1 million words of text in a year. If crime, drugs, or violence plagues the area, it can be difficult to find a role model within the community. More than 65% of all prison inmates are functionally illiterate, unable to read above a 4th grade level. Literacy and crime could be closely related. The Department of Justice states the link between academic failure and delinquency, violence, and crime is welded to reading failure. This does not necessarily mean this is a cause and effect relationship, but the two could be somewhat correlated. Students from low-income families may receive less preventative medical and dental care, leading to more illnesses and school absences. Some students could have no means of transportation to or from school. The cost of learning, such as field trips, books, school bags, and even lunch, can be a problem. Students might go to school hungry or cold from not being properly dressed. Illiterate adults may have difficulty reading health medicine warning labels, pill bottles, or instructions, resulting in dangerous consequences. Socioeconomic status has been determined to be a factor in the attainment of higher education. The probability of enrolling in college decreases sharply as you go down the ability scale for children from economically and socially less favored homes than it does for children from more favored homes. The ratio of high poverty schools increased from 12 to 17% in the last 2 years. 16,000 public schools have been labeled high poverty schools. Schools in poor areas may be inadequate facilities for learning or have a lack of resources like books, desks, or computers. Poverty-stricken schools may be hard-pressed to find willing and well-qualified teachers. Different approaches have been taken to instruct reading and comprehension. Since English is an orthographically inconsistent language where letters can have more than one sound each, phonics, or the sounding out of words, is the recommended method versus whole word recognition. Fundamental children's books or learn to read books come of great use for teaching. For decades, Dr. Seuss books have been favorites of children, parents, and educators. From an educator's perspective, these books help children learn to read through repetitive use of sight words. Such words represent between 50% and 75% of all English print media. To high school graduation, persistence in educational pursuits may be merely an outcome of the legal structure reflected by free and compulsory education up to a certain level and the prescription of a minimum school leaving age. After entering college, the situation changes. The student who gets into college has already overcome most of whatever handicaps their home environment offered, and once there, their chances of graduating are much more dependent upon their ability and much less upon their family background than were their chances of getting into college in the first place. But as more kids are enrolling in college, there is no increase in graduation rates. Illiterate adults are denoted to low-paying, non-skilled jobs. Economists argue by 2012 there will be a shortage of 7 million properly educated workers. Considering that the U.S. economy is already struggling, an uneducated workforce will not help in recovering prosperity. Columbia University reported a yearly total of $192 billion lost in potential wages from workers without a high school diploma. Since the government mandates public schools, they work to ensure the students of America are receiving quality education regardless of race, gender, religion, or socioeconomic background. Previously, the No Child Left Behind Act was tried. No Child Left Behind included specifically based programs to help fund English language learners or English as a second language students, but there was a lack of consideration of literacy in their native language. Scott Forrest, published Californian, argues students' level of literacy in his or her native language directly affects the transferability of literacy to a second language. Obama has put in place the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which has invested heavily in education. The act includes $5 billion for early learning programs, including Head Start, Early Head Start, Child Care, and programs for children with special needs. The act also includes $77 billion for reforms to strengthen elementary and secondary education. Obama is pushing to end the use of ineffective off-the-shelf tests and support new state-of-the-art assessment and accountability systems that provide timely and useful information about the learning and progress of individual students. Obama argues Congress should not sacrifice a commitment to education for disagreements and budget cuts. A budget that sacrifices our commitment to education will be a budget that's sacrificing our country's future, our children's future. Duncan, Secretary of Education, has begun several initiatives to vitalize reform, particularly in his Race to the Top competition, a competition for federal dollars going to states with the most innovative reforms to achieve the highest standards in public schooling. Merit pay for outstanding teachers, although faced by heavy opposition, has been discussed in order to prompt teacher effectiveness. But how much of this is actually helping? The Philadelphia School District, who gets more than half of its funding from the state, enrolled at over 200,000 students, has 62% of its students in poverty. The question remains about which program or programs can best address the socioeconomic disadvantage and provide students with the skills necessary to be successful learners. Literacy programs have been enacted to help. The Center for Literacy, based out of Philadelphia, has created a number of specialized programs, classes, and tutoring to help multi-level adult basic education, to help with GED preparation, offer workforce education, and English as second language instruction. Change of Kids is another organization that partners with inner-city schools in New York City to provide extra instruction, guidance, supplies and resources, and activities to students. Other organizations like Pro-Literacy and the National Book Fund work across the country to provide literary services, books, and other educational materials to underprivileged and underfunded schools. But despite all these efforts, children continue to struggle in school and grow into inadequate adults in the workforce. Students are not receiving equal education opportunities across the country, and their well-being is being compromised because of it.